Welcome to Dr. Mandi Show. Steve Waura, welcome for coming here. And I wanted you to introduce yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Steve Waura, diaspora from Kenya, first generation immigrant. So I'm mostly passionate about entrepreneurship since a very young age. So I've been working on different projects in the technology space that are focused towards Africa.
Okay, and I heard you are the next Steve Jobs of Apple. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, as in I definitely am inspired by entrepreneurs like Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates.
Okay.
But for me, I kind of go away from the whole more like Steve Jobs or the others, because I feel like I'm more of the me. Because what Steve Jobs did is great, but what I'm trying to do is from a different angle.
Okay.
So I'm trying to build upon his legacy for sure.
So what is this you're building on?
Yeah. So right now, what I'm working on, the main project we have is Hyracbox. So Hyracbox is focused on bringing information to the billions who don't have access to internet. Because right now, as it stands, 60% of the world does not have access to internet.
Okay.
So we've built a hardware that's able to basically work as a mobile server offline. Okay. And it has resources like Khan Academy and other educational resources where people in developing countries can be able to have access to.
So, how does it really work if you can help now in rural Africa?
Yeah.
Where there's no internet, how would it be able to work in those areas without internet?
So basically, the internet is multiple servers around the world that are transmitting information to our devices.
Okay.
So what this works is a device that's basically this small.
Okay.
And it's able to store information there, and then it's able to allow people to connect to their Wi-Fi devices, like a phone or a tablet or laptop, and they can be able to now kind of have the same experience as the internet.
So using that, so it's like a mini server.
Yeah, mini server.
Okay. So how did you develop where did you get this idea? How did you start?
Yeah, so it started with my partner, Joshua Kanani.
Okay.
So his background is in hardware engineering. And when we met, we were both thinking about how can we bring information to more people in developing countries.
Okay.
So we specifically started with Kenya since that's where we're from. And at first we had an idea of USBs, where we just give USB disks to different people, but that was inefficient. So we started looking around and finding different open source projects that we built upon to now have what we have now. So it took about 2.5 years to be able to have a solution.
So can you tell us how you have gone so far in developing that, and have you got like investors investing, like venture capital investors?
So we have now started looking at getting venture capital investors. So this is more of a social project that we're doing as far as social entrepreneurship.
Okay.
So what we've done so far, though, is we've partnered with different organizations. Like we recently went to Germany to meet with our German partner, who's helping us launching projects in South Sudan, Kenya, Ghana, Rwanda, and then also in Nepal.
Okay.
So a good example is in South Sudan, where they, as you know, they have a conflict there, and there's a lot of challenges there. So we gave them one of our mini boxes, and one of the directors mentioned that just mini box that would cost about $70 was able to impact 400 people. So from women to young men, so they, women were able to get health information. Then also young men were able to get information as far as how to be able to use resources around them to build something.
So, have you started mass production of your invention?
So we partnered with the Chinese company that's helping us with some of the casing and everything else. So we did try to develop in the US, but let's just say China does a better job at reducing the cost. So now we're at the stage where we're starting to market it.
Okay.
And start to look at other companies and organizations we want to partner with to now, bring it to those different centers where people can be able to utilize the resources.
So therefore you have already started producing in China?
Yeah.
Why couldn't you produce it? Because we want to make America great. and why are you taking to China so that they could steal our technology?
So it's not necessarily stealing of the technology. the technology itself is open source, so anyone can be able to replicate or rebuild it as well. But as far as why we went to China was because in the US it was costing us $14 to just create a case for the Outen, and then when we went to China it was $3 instead.
Wow.
So for us to impact people in developing countries, we can't charge them such a huge premium.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they only develop the case, then you come to install your.
So it's coming from different pieces. Us, it's more software. So we're using a UK company that develops the Raspberry Pi. That's what we're using as our core hardware. And then from there, we come with our own software that we install in there, and then we assemble in our basement for now.
Just like Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
So that's true. Steve Jobs started his Apple in a garage.
Yeah.
Now, what challenges have you had in developing or breaking through with your technology? Like to share.
Yeah, the challenges we've had is when you come from the idea to the actual process of starting to build it. Because I feel like a lot of people have great ideas, but not many really start the execution.
Okay.
So after you start the execution, it's now starting to figure out how can you be able to build something that's sustainable.
Okay.
And also how to build the technology to be able to work at scale. So it took us 2 years to just make sure the technology itself works.
Okay.
And even if it's open source, as I mentioned, you have to have a background in engineering and then spend another 2 years just learning how to just make sure everything is assembled. So that was a very difficult part.
Okay.
But the next difficult part was mostly now building sustainability with the product.
Okay.
Because when you pitch to people, they get excited about it, but closing a sale is difficult. It's one thing to write a check, and it's one thing to say it's a good product.
Okay. So have you had some contracts?
Yeah, so right now we're working with a German NGO. They're looking at doing a contract for launching in Ghana, 50 of the boxes.
Okay.
So what we do is we do more of a B2B compared to B2C, because we work with organizations that are working with different impact areas instead.
Okay. So, and once you have the technology going, where do you see this product in 10 years coming?
So right now, 10 years coming is we hopefully that Africa in general and internet has been able to penetrate very well, and it's more affordable for people to use it, because Kenya does have high internet penetration rate. In other parts like Nigeria and etc. But the challenge is the cost. So here a student can go on Khan Academy and watch a video for hours. But in Kenya you have to count your hours or minutes that you spend on the internet.
Okay.
So what we see for us from the future here, Hyracbox is the first version of our technologies, and then we hope to be able to build upon that towards something else so they can coexist with the internet as well at that time.
Okay. Well, that is very good at your age, what you are doing. How now, what advice can you give to those young innovators who have great ideas, but they have not left the launching pad?
Yeah. I think the first thing is the fear part. So there's usually fear of failure that usually comes into a lot of people's mindset, because it's very true that this entrepreneurship industry is, you maybe have a 1% chance of getting out there, and then once you get out there, you have to then survive the 5-year, 10-year mark where you once again are faced with a 10% chance of survival. So you have to understand that that's the way the game is, but that's what should make you excited. So just because there's a 1% or 10% chance of making it, you just have to do 90% or 99% of the other things different from other people. So the one thing I can tell young people to do is to just start. I think that's the best advice I can give, because if you don't start, then anything else that I tell you won't matter.
It wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
Who encouraged you to start?
Who encouraged me to start?
Yeah.
I think for me, I don't know. I feel like from a young age, I just always tried to sell something. So I remember when we had recently come from Kenya, I was maybe about 10 years old. I started a subscription business in the house where I'll wash your dishes, I'll make sure your room is clean if you pay me like $3 a month. So it was natural for me to just.
So you have been an entrepreneur all through.
Yeah, as in I didn't know I was an entrepreneur until age 15 when someone told me that. So it was new to me when someone told me that, but it was more just natural.
Okay. Now, you say you came here when you were 10 years?
Yeah.
So you can you tell us your life in Africa before you came here?
Yeah, actually, before I came here, I do remember with Okeng, one of my good long-term friends. When one of my uncles was there was tea that he had, and he wasn't using it anymore. So we took that tea and we went and sold it at another kiosk. So I feel like the whole entrepreneurship thing has been with me for more than I can remember myself.
So you went and used the tea of your uncle to sell and make money?
Yeah, he wasn't using it anymore, so we saw, let's go to a kiosk and sell it at wholesale price. For us, it's all profit.
Okay. Now, what you came here at the age of 10, so you were, I guess you were in 3rd grade, or which grade were you?
It mixes up with the other grades, but basically at around 5th grade here.
You came in 5th grade?
Yeah.
So tell us the challenges you got coming from a different education system to here.
Yeah, so the challenge, I should say, more than education system, was the accent. Because I have an accent and they see that I have an accent, but they don't know they have an accent. So the teacher is explaining something and you can't quite get all the words, and when you try to ask a question, the teacher does not understand what you're quite asking as well. But I feel like the challenge was mostly cultural. There are different things that were culturally different compared to in Kenya. But I feel like when you come at a younger age, it's easier to adapt because everyone else at that age is also exploring. So they might not even pay attention to you as far as you're exploring yourself.
Accent. If you say you had an accent, and I don't think you had an accent like many old people when they came here. So generally, to you have gone, you have made this innovation. Do you think there could have been an opportunity for you in Kenya to do this innovation, like what you're doing now, if you grew in Kenya?
Yeah, as in I've thought about that as well. As in the different environments you're in does impact how you end up, what you end up creating. But the one thing I do see is, based on when I reflect back at the one story I told you, something would have come up one way or the other to try and build a solution. And at certain times, the more tougher the environment you're in, the more you're going to be able to build something greater. Because if you look at a lot of the technologies that are going to be coming in the future, are going to be coming from Africa, because they're in a position where they're in a very tough condition, but they also have this internet and technology thing. So they have these challenges, but they also have this opportunity, so they'll be able to innovate more out of it. So for me, when I look at back, if I was in Kenya and I had to pursue entrepreneurship, I feel like I would have approached it differently, but the core foundations would have been the same.
Okay, and that's a very good question. You have said that you can do more innovation in Africa than here. Because as you earlier talked, that you have gone to China for them to make your casing. In America, I've seen that all toys are made in America. When actually in Africa, did you make your own toys? Did you make your own car, like with the wires, and then you make? But here the children don't make even that one. They get feed, and so what would you with that? What would you give advice? What needs to be done in Kenya to accelerate young people to be innovators?
So there's already a lot of innovators in Kenya and around Africa as well. The challenge is, unfortunately, because the government does need to step in and also nurture this innovation that's coming up. But the one thing I like Jack Ma said was, when he was in Kenya, is if you're waiting for the government, then it's too late.
It's too late.
Yeah, because when he was starting in China, he faced the same problem. But he mentioned you have to just keep pushing, and the government will play catch up sooner or later. So that's the one challenge I do see in Kenya, as far as the infrastructure of how some of the laws favor outside investors compared to local investors.
Local investors.
So I think the one advice I can give to to people right now in Kenya and other parts of Africa is to find a way to just learn how to make $1.
Okay.
Just $1. If you can find a way to make $1, you can be able to replicate that.
Okay. Thank you so much. We'll stop here and we'll have the second section. But for now, we'll come so that you give us more details. Thank you for listening.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.